One of Cortez's soldiers had written down his first impressions of seeing Tenochtitlan, and he says, "When we saw so many cities and villages built in the water and other great towns on dry land, we were amazed and said it was like enchantments, on account of the great towers and quays and buildings rising from the water, and all built of masonry. And some of our soldiers even asked whether the things that we saw were not a dream. I do not know how to describe it, seeing things as we did that had never been heard of or seen before, not even dreamed about." So let's talk about the Aztec religion real quick. Each god in the Aztec pantheon represents and rules an aspect of the natural world. So we've got the heavens, farming, rain, fertility, sacrifice, and combat. And a ruling class of warrior nobles and priests would perform ritual human sacrifices daily to sustain the sun on its long journey across the sky, to appease or feed the gods, and to stimulate agricultural production. They had a different reason for all of these sacrifices. The sacrificial ceremony included cutting open the chest of a criminal or a captured warrior with an obsidian knife and removing the still beating heart. It is important to note that they are sacrificing criminals or captured warriors. It's unlikely they're just taking Aztecs from the village and doing it. Not that this is better, they're still sacrificing people, but that's an ethical question for a different time. Let's move on to the Inca real quick. We'll come back to Cortez and Montezuma in a little bit. The Inca are probably the most highly developed and complex society in South America. Remember, the Aztecs are up in Mexico, which is Central America, and North America, not South America. This language, Quichua, I don't know how to say that, I'm so sorry. It means lord or ruler. The height of their civilization was the 15th and 16th centuries. Their civilization extended 2,500 miles from modern-day Colombia to Chile, and it included cities built at altitudes of 14,000 feet above sea level, Machu Picchu, those places. The road system that they built rivaled the Romans, and that's what connected their empire throughout the mountains. They also built stepped roads to climb the Andes, which would work out well for the Incan army because they had all these routes to go over the Andes mountains. They would also have runners called chasquis who traversed the roads in a continuous relay system, ensuring quick communication over long distances. Who needs telegraph lines when you've got this? They have no system of written language. They used colored strings and knots called quipu to keep records, and you would have to figure out how to translate these strings and knots without writing. Daily life for the Incans, they worshipped their lord, who was a member of the elite ruling class, had absolute authority over every aspect of life, very similar to feudal Europe, right? Except most Europeans aren't worshiping their lord, they're just kind of stuck there. The ruling class of the Inca lives off the labor of the peasants. They collected vast wealth that would accompany them as they went into the next life, and they were also mummified. The Incans also farmed corn, beans, squash, quinoa, and an indigenous potato on terrace land that they hacked out of the mountains. So they managed to plant in the mountains. You can see a picture of it right here. The peasants received only 1/3 of their crops. 1/3 went to the ruler, and 1/3 was set aside as a welfare system. So the Incas had a welfare system where if you could not work or farm, you got some of those crops. And then in times when you could work or farm, you put your own part in there. Each peasant also had to work for the Incan ruler for a certain number of days per month on a public works project. This is called the Mita, and it is a requirement of the Incan civilization. It's a community where you're all participating to make your community work for everybody. And then we have Incan religion. We know they worshipped a sun god called Inti and called gold the sweat of the sun. There's probably a lot of gold in these mountains. Unlike the Maya and the Aztec, they rarely practiced human sacrifice. They usually offered the gods food, clothing, and cocoa leaves. If it was a dire emergency like an earthquake or volcano or massive crop failure, then they might resort to sacrificing a prisoner. And of course, the ultimate sacrifice is children. You'd have to go something devastating would have to happen to sacrifice a child. In 1911, we finally unearthed the lost Incan city of Machu Picchu, credited to Hiram Bingham finding it. It's about 50 miles northwest of Cusco, Peru. It's an altitude of 8,000 feet, and it built in 1450, and it was inexplicably abandoned, and we don't really know why, but we do believe it was used for religious ceremonial purposes and housed the priesthood.